nestled high in the Ozark Mountains, at the corner of Razorback Road and Maple Street. We're here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, ready for some football action. This is Hotz Game Day, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to talk to you about some college football. Hotz Game Day is upon us, and today we're talking about all of the premier games, including Northern Illinois at Arkansas. Following a huge win over Texas Tech, the Razorbacks look to continue their winning ways, while Northern Illinois looks to stay undefeated and secure an upset over an SEC team. The stakes are high, the game is set, and we're ready to bring you Hotz Game Day. Stick around, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have highlights, we'll have jokes, we'll have laughs, and we'll have a lot of fun. Hotz Game Day, presented by Hotz Honors Hall.
Can we go back? This is the moment. Tonight is the night.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tucker Partridge.
I'm Matt Turner.
I'm Grady Dunlap. I'm Kyle.
And this is Hotz Game Day. We have some breaking news this evening. We've got Jameis Winston sitting out an entire game versus Clemson.
Are you for real?
I'm for real. We're going to take this opportunity, though, to introduce Hotz's inaugural guest picker, representing the 4th floor of Hotz Honors Dorm, R.A. extraordinaire, Trevor Page.
I love you, Trevor.
Welcome to the show, Trevor.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Glad to.
Can I
glad
take a quick
Yeah,
selfie?
yeah, sure.
I want to be in it. Good.
All right. So, Jameis Winston, you got any opinion on this situation, Trevor?
To me, the whole situation has just gotten a little out of hand at this point. Jameis Winston has had so many instances over and over and over, and it just continues to get slaps on the wrist. And I feel like at some point, something substantial is going to have to be done.
All right. What about you, Grady?
I was very disappointed when I heard that they were only giving him a half-game suspension. I think the full-game suspension is a step in the right direction, to be sure. But like you were saying, I think more than a slap on the wrist is going to be needed in the future.
All right, Matt, what do you think?
You know, I'm just wondering, when is the most popular player in the game going to get out of the bad spotlight? I mean, Johnny Football was in the bad spotlight 24/7, and now Winston's the same thing. When are we going to have a quarterback that's going to be, good for the community?
Well, we've been a little spoiled recently, I think. In past years, we've had guys that are really, really stand up, like Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, guys who we see as, having high character. And all of a sudden, now that we're in this mass media age, we have all these players that are under so much scrutiny. And celebrity can be a little bit of a poison. That said, I think that there's a certain point where you have to learn how to straighten up. If you're in this much of a spotlight, you have to know that everybody's watching every single move you make. And Jameis Winston has had several opportunities to get his act together. And I think we heard somewhere that maybe there's something worse.
Yeah, I actually just got this in just a few minutes ago. One of my good friends is one of the beat writers for Florida State. I know, thank you. And one of my good friends, Emory Parker, he's a beat writer for Florida State, and he was telling me a while ago that while right now we're just dealing with this one isolated incident, that maybe it's not so isolated. He was seeming to hint to me that there's something more on the horizon, and we may see, because right now we just have the one incident, and we're just suspending for that one game, and we may not know today, tomorrow, but he seemed to hint that there was something bigger coming up.
All right, Kyle, what do you think about this situation?
America.
That's it?
That is it.
Well, what do we think about his NFL draft stock? Mel Kiper dropped him from number 3 to number 25 this week on his big board. Do we think that it matters as far as character goes, and will it affect, if he's one of the best players in the country, will that affect it, or what do we think?
Oh, I think it'll definitely affect it. If you have your most important player in the bad PR 24/7, that's not going to help your team. So I think it'll definitely impede his draft stock.
What do you think?
I agree with you there, but I do think we're still a little early in the season. I think his performance through the rest of Florida State's games are definitely going to be a huge influence on how he's drafted come spring.
All right, what do you think?
I think to a degree that it will affect it, but at least maybe part of me just really hopes that, or really has this idea that once you get to the NFL, like, they don't put up with it. And so it kind of becomes a non-factor because it either won't happen anymore or you'll be cut.
I think that with all the scrutiny that the NFL is under right now, with all these domestic violence issues and all of that, they're going to have to clean up their image in a hurry because they're under a lot of scrutiny right now. A lot of people are calling for Roger Goodell to resign. I think that anyone attached to too much negative publicity just isn't going to cut it for the league right now because they need to start cleaning up their image. So I think it's really going to hurt him as a draftee, and it's a sad situation to look at, going from being such a skillful player to potentially knocking yourself out of the draft. Kyle, you got any words of wisdom for us before we cut to break?
Well. I think the only problem here is Mel Kiper's hair. It's literally the worst.
The only problem?
And famous Jameis. He's pretty bad too.
Well,
All right, then.
alrighty then. We're about to cut to break, and we will see you when we come back. Stay tuned.
So I'm a little worried about my Spanish test coming up tomorrow. So as you can see, I've got a little bit of here, but I've brought in a couple of people here with me. I've got John Gruden and Bill Clinton here to help. So we'll see. I don't know. John, can you just help me get started here?
Well, let me tell you all about my favorite play. It's derived from the Sayre formation. You see, that's actually out of the shotgun. So we're going to take Sayre, and you see it starts off, you have Y run an O route, and then you have Tu, L, and Aya. That's actually what the quarterback's doing. The quarterback's running around like L and Aya. You see here, this right here is Russell Will. Actually, it's Johnny Football, because I like Johnny Football more. And here he is with the football. He's running around, making money. I'm going to put some cash in his hand. And you see, he's a little angry because, you know, he's benched by Brian Hoyer. But look at it there, right there. He's running an L and A formation. But what you do is you go out there and the quarterback runs out to the line and goes, "Nos vos ellos." You got to say it like a man. You got to go out there. "Nos vos ellos."
Nos vos ellos.
There you go. All right, Bill. What do you got to think on this one?
We got. I don't know what's going on.
Damn it, Brady.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to start off reflecting on the Auburn and Kansas State game. Auburn ended up pulling this one away with 20-14. So what do we think about this game, Matt?
You know, lower scoring game than I thought. Kansas State really shot themselves in the foot with 3 turnovers and 3 missed field goals. You can't do that against a quality opponent.
I think that the thing that we can take away from this game is that there is an offense and a defense that you can call against Auburn. Kansas State was able to move the ball against Auburn, so their offense did succeed. It was just the turnovers and the missed field goals. They threw an interception in the end zone off of a wide receiver's hands, so they were capable of winning this game. Unfortunately, it didn't end up working out for Bill Snyder and the gang, but I think that the defense that they called worked because they held Auburn, a high-scoring offense, to 20 points. And Auburn played a very sloppy game, but I think it was in no small part due to that defense. So now the question is, can Auburn win the SEC West? What do you think, Trevor?
Well, in short, the answer is still yes, very much so. They proved that last year that even come from the underdog role, they could still handle the SEC West gauntlet. However, moving forward, I think they do need to be very weary of the fact that a documented way to stop their defense is now out there. For the great football minds like Nick Saban, I mean, now he has a way to go in and he can look at specifically what worked against them and their offense already this year. And, I mean, that's just very scary for them to have going forward. And, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they do going down the stretch. They got tested really early, and we'll see what that translates into as they go into the SEC slate.
Grady?
I think they certainly can win the SEC West. It's still a little early in the season to tell, but we'll find out as the weeks go on.
Matt?
I think they can, but they won't. Too many tough tests against A&M, Ole Miss, and Alabama.
I think that the defenses in the SEC West are a little tougher than a Big 12 defense. Sorry, Brady. But I think that they will have more adversity down the road, and it's really going to be up to, can they work the miracles that they did last year, and will they be able to avoid games as sloppy as these? Kyle, what do you think? No?
Is that it?
That's it? Tis it.
Okay.
All right. Brady, what's our next game?
We got a matchup out west. We have Virginia taking on number 21 Brigham Young at BYU. What do y'all think of this one?
Matt, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, sure. BYU dominated Texas. They're 3-0. Virginia hasn't played a road game so far this year. I think BYU wins.
We gave Virginia an upset. It was last week, and they ended up pulling it off. We said that they played against UCLA very well. They ended up losing that game, but they played extremely well and held UCLA's offense to a very low-scoring game. I think that Virginia is probably better on defense than BYU's high-powered offense can handle, just because BYU, I don't know that I'd call Texas a test. At this point, they're still down because we all know how much I hate Texas. It's that much.
How much?
That much.
Okay.
And I think that BYU is a worse team probably than UCLA, so I'll give Virginia this one in an upset alert.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. Virginia has proven that they can play well against quality teams. Playing well and winning are two different things, but I think they'll pull it off against the Cougars.
To me, it'll come down to, I think this game will come down to quarterback play for BYU. So far he's done really well and he's played lights out, but when are they actually going to play a quality defense? Like you said, Texas, how much of a test is that anymore? I mean, it's just honest. So I think it'll come down to quarterback play for BYU, and if Taysom Hill can throw the ball.
All right, what do you got, Kyle?
I'm going to go with a tie.
A tie. You said that last week. It didn't really happen. You got any justification for this one? Or?
Nope.
All right. That'll do. All right, coming back to what we started off with in our morning, number 22 Clemson at number 1 Florida State. Obviously, the biggest key in this game is Jameis Winston being out for the full game now. Do we think that the Seminoles defense will be able to bail him out? Do we think that the backup quarterback will be able to play? What do we think, guys?
Grady, what do you think?
It's hard to be ranked much higher than first in the country. There's not a whole lot of numbers lower than 1, and Florida State will be at home. That being said, I do think both of these teams are at least a little bit overrated, and with Winston sitting out the whole game, this just got a lot more interesting. I think I'm going to have to go with the Seminoles, though, on this one.
Tucker, what do you got?
Well, we had this game really hyped up last year, and Clemson, I think, had better players last year with Taj Boyd and Sammy Watkins. And that game ended up in a debacle for Clemson that just was an absolute curb stomping. But that was also Jameis Winston's real kind of, emergence as a star player and future Heisman
game.
You're right. That's what they call his Heisman game. He's not playing. So it's going to be up to the Florida State defense. Clemson's already dropped one. I think that it'll be a lower scoring game for Florida State than they're used to. But with playmakers that Florida State has, I think that I'm going to give this one to Florida State, but I think it'll be close. It will not be a blowout.
Agreed.
Well, I predict magical whales will fall down from the sky,
No.
I don't think
preventing Florida State from scoring any touchdowns when they're on the offense. So,
Can you, show me the correlation between tigers and whales? Or
okay, so
2 hours later.
they had hybrids of these tiger whales. They're called
Wales?
Wales.
I've never.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
And that's why Twales will ruin this game.
You heard him, America. Google Twales on Twitter.
Now that we finished our riveting Now that we've finished our riveting discussion on Twales, I'd like to move to our next game. Can we do that?
I guess.
Good idea, please.
All right. We have 3-0 Mississippi State facing off against number 8 LSU, who is also 3-0. Grady, what do we got?
This game's in Death Valley. LSU's defense, as always, has been doing pretty well, and I think as the season goes on, their offense is going to get it together and do even better. Mississippi State struggled against UAB earlier in the season, so I'm going to go with the Tigers at home.
You know, anybody who's watched Mississippi State over the past, 10 years knows that they're going to win the games they're supposed to win and lose the games they're supposed to lose. LSU wins.
What do you got, Trevor?
To me, it is just going to come down to LSU's defense. They've just been outstanding so far this year. Granted, they haven't played really much outside of their early matchup with Wisconsin, but last week they gave up less than 100 yards of total offense. It doesn't even really matter who you're playing. That's impressive.
I have a statistic to share with everyone, and it's that since the, I believe, second half of that Wisconsin game, LSU hasn't allowed a point. A single point. So I think I'm going to give this one to the Tigers, as sickening as that is. The Bulldogs, they always, see, the thing is about Mississippi State, they're really scrappy. They'll play, they'll play to the level of their competition. And so I think they'll give LSU a tougher game, but their defense is just too good. And while Dak Prescott is a very good quarterback, I think that LSU's defense will be able to save them if the offense can't. What do you got, Kyle?
You okay?
No. Guys, I just realized that beef jerky is just a cow raisin.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Wow.
No.
That's profound.
You're right.
I can't disagree with that. Moving on.
Well, I am in honors philosophy, so.
Oh, well, of course. All right. We've got Florida facing off against number 3 Alabama. What do we want to start with? Trevor, what do you got?
Well, this game's interesting. A lot of folks coming into the year thought, maybe Florida was going to have it turned around coming into the season, and early on, maybe it looked that way. But last week, I don't know. Overtime against Kentucky. Kentucky's better, yes, but you just breathe. Are you
Every week.
Do we have?
Can we get somebody to escort her out of here?
We need a bouncer.
Yeah, we really need a All right, coming back to the discussion of the game.
Right, so I think in short, people have tried to say this was going to be Florida's year to come back. It's not going to happen. Alabama's going to prove that they're still just head and tails higher than Florida.
All right, Grady.
Bama's at home. Bama wins big. Matt?
Yeah, struggling against Kentucky in the swamp, Bama wins.
Bama's going to win this one, and it's going to be an intriguing little matchup in a couple of weeks. That's all I'm going to say on that for a little bit.
All right.
I give it to Bama. Kyle?
First, I'd like to shout out to Sean Trix, Max Sager, Grant Booth, and Laura Williams.
What about second?
There's no.
Anything on the game?
Yeah, what about the game?
I'm going to go with Alabama.
Why?
Well, you see, elephants are really big, and the gators are really small, even though they have really sharp teeth.
I think gators can get up to 20 feet long. They can be pretty big.
But the elephants are fat.
Right.
And they're really big.
Right.
Yeah.
And they spout water out of their nose.
So there you go.
Well, with logic like that, you can't really argue with it. We're going to take a break, but coming up, we have our marquee game of the day. Doesn't involve any elephants, but we've got Northern Illinois Huskies versus the Arkansas Razorbacks. Stay tuned, and we'll be back after the break.
final verdict. Heisman picks. Who y'all got?
You know, I really think Todd Gurley's going to win it this year.
I think that the University of Notre Dame, University of South Carolina, University of Notre Dame is going to win the Heisman this year. Let me tell you why. They're going to go out there and run the football real hard. Like when I was at Kansas State, I weighed 157 pounds, but it was soaking wet. And I played linebacker with Nick Saban. We weren't on the same team, but I did through our brotherhood at University of Kent State, University of Notre Dame, University of South Carolina. That said, I'm going to talk about University of Notre Dame. Everett Golson's the best quarterback to ever play the game. I think it's going to be the University of Notre Dame University. That's where I coach. Did I mention that I coached at the University of Notre Dame, University of South Carolina, University of Notre Dame?
That being said, I am going to have to give it to Matt. I don't think Notre Dame is winning the Heisman.
You're talking about Notre Dame University, coming out here talking about Georgia University and the running back Todd Gurley. You're going to come out here and talk, I'm going to talk to I run out of breath about the University of Notre Dame, University of South Carolina, University of Notre Dame.
Yes.
This is crazy. I'm never going to come here again. What do you believe this guy? Who's going to win the Heisman? It's the University of Notre Dame.
Got Marcus Mariota.
I'm done with this.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we begin our discussion on our marquee game. Northern Illinois at the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas is coming off a huge win against non-conference foe Texas Tech, in which they made headlines again, some saying that Arkansas looked dominant again. Looks like they're getting the respect back. What do we think about this game?
You know, Arkansas is definitely going to be able to run all over Northern Illinois. Their rushing attack is just too much. But I think Northern Illinois will be able to move the ball against the Razorbacks, but Arkansas pulls it out with a pretty hefty victory in the end.
All right, what do you got, Grady?
Well, last week was a matchup of two completely opposite systems. This is much more of a matchup of similar systems, which will be interesting in a different way. But with the way Arkansas has been rushing the last 2 weeks, good chance they'll be continuing that. I got Arkansas in a somewhat close one.
All right, Trevor.
It's something interesting to note about Northern Illinois' defense is that they've had some real struggles replacing their defensive line from last year. And so in order to help that, they're having 2 of their 3 linebackers are senior linebackers who have been there and done that. So they're staying up front to shore up the run defense, which is leaving their secondary exposed. Teams like UNLV and every team they've played so far this year has had success through the air when they've had success against Northern Illinois. So it'll be interesting to see if Brandon Allen, we believe he's improved. You know, let's see it. It'll be a chance for him to gain some momentum.
I think it's going to be an interesting matchup because I think that this game will be what our message is to Texas A&M. I think that there are 2 foreseeable options for me. One is we go out there and do exactly what we did last week. That won't help Brandon Allen as far as, getting him comfortable with passing, but we don't tip our hand on what all of our passing plays are. So Texas A&M won't be able to prepare for that. Or we go out and pass all over the place and don't show the run so that Texas A&M is having to prepare for 2 different things. It's obviously they need to focus on this game, but you can't help but think that that's in the back of their minds because if Arkansas wins this game, Texas A&M is number 6 and undefeated. Assuming they're on a bye this week, aren't they?
They're playing SMU.
Or they're playing SMU, yeah. So well a bye. Sorry, Mustangs. But I think that it's really going to be, we're assuming A&M will win that. If Arkansas wins this game, 3-1 versus 4-0, Arkansas has gotten a little bit of noise in the polls as far as voting goes. For TV's sake, you might think that we get bumped up to number 25 or 24 just to make it look marquee. We know Jerry loves the marquee games, so.
This is all assuming we don't blow it.
Assuming, I think that Arkansas wins this one. I think they pull away with it in the second half. It's just going to be interesting to look at how they do it.
I think a big key there is last week we saw Arkansas can run the ball. They can pound the run game. This week, we're going to need to see the passing game. It's going to take both facets of the offense to play against A&M, and I know that that's looking ahead, but you want to have at least the foundation of we have success passing the ball. I mean, you want to see that, so it'll be curious to see.
What do you think, Kyle?
Well, we got the 2 running backs for Arkansas, Alex Collins and your boy.
My boy?
Yeah, your boy. Yeah, your boy. So
his name's Jonathan Williams, and there's also a third named Carlos Marshall, who's pretty good.
Your boys. Anyway, we have those 3 running backs from Arkansas, but we got to be very careful with NIU. They are 3-0. They're not a terrible team. They are not a terrible team, but this will be the key to Arkansas's season this year, as you were saying. So, I got Arkansas winning by at least 4 touchdowns. Okay.
Go off.
Big Suey! Big Suey! Razorbacks!
That's all we have this week, ladies and gentlemen. Please stay tuned. Hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Hotz Game Day. Let us know how we did do. Let us know how we didn't do. Let us know how we can improve. Let us know what we did well. We like some compliments occasionally. Share with your friends. Post the links. Let us know how we did. We'll see you next week. I'm Tucker Partridge signing off for Matt Turner, Grady Dunlap, Kyle Ward, and our guest speaker, Trevor Page. We'll see you next time.
#.
Now there was a time when you loved me so.
Yes, in short, yes. I think Auburn is more than capable of winning the SEC West. I think what they need to be wary of is that going forward, there's now documented proof of how to stop their offense, and that's a scary thing for especially minds like Nick Saban and that can get a hold of this video. I can't.
I don't know what's going on.
Talking about it for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. You should do a Nixon. Shake what you want.
Maybe it's about 10.